Alright, this is a tier list channel now. I'm going to be ranking the tiers on how useful they are as tiers. So firstly, B tier. This is an amazing tier. I love it. Something about it just seems very modest. And I would be very happy being placed in B tier. I'm going to be putting it in A tier. Often the things in B tier, by definition, they're not the best, but they usually have their specific niche, which they're the best in, which they often surpass A tier in, sometimes even S tier. Overall, very good tier. I'm putting it in A tier. C tier, however, it's disgusting. I hate it. The worst tier. Whenever someone does not have an opinion on something, when they don't know about the thing on the tier list enough, they just place it in C tier. It's boring. Terrible tier. The worst one. I'm putting E tier in C tier. It's kind of like F tier, the things you put in it. Except it's just slightly better, so you feel bad about putting it in F tier. If you only had the option to choose things in F tier, you often think, okay, I'll just choose nothing. You'd think the same for things in E tier, but you have to admit that, okay, they're slightly better than F tier. However, I do think it's still an underrated tier. Often in tier lists, you have A, B, C, D, then you skip E and go to F for some reason. But it still does have some purpose in a tier list, so I'm not going to rank it too harshly. D tier is kind of like B tier, but for the lower half, for below average. D tier usually has its specific niche which it's good at, however, it's terrible at everything else, and the niche it might not even be the best at compared to everything else in the list. However, that is expected for something which is as low as D tier. And I think it serves a good purpose in the tier list. So I will put it in B tier. I don't get S tier. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, and then S at the top for some reason. Like, what does that stand for? Screechy Recorder Child. No, I actually looked it up before this video, and it came over from Japan, I think. It's S for the Japanese word for excellent. I think it devalues A tier a lot, because A tier used to be the near perfection or perfect tier, but it got used too much. Everything was put in A tier. Now it doesn't mean anything. Now you need a tier above A tier. It's S tier, and that makes me not really like it that much. Just use A tier instead. So I'm putting it in D tier. F tier, I think it serves a good purpose. It's usually used as the worst tier. I have seen sometimes you get H tier or G tier, not very much though. F tier is usually the worst. It's everything about it is terrible. That's great. That's exactly what you want for the lowest tier. So I'm putting it in A tier. Often you have more than one S tier. Above S tier, you have SS tier, then above it you can have SSS tier. I really don't like this. You already invalidated A tier with the existence of S tier, and now you've oversaturated S tier so much that you need another tier above it. Just stop putting things so high. It's still better than C tier though, so I'm putting it in E tier. Plus or minus tier. This is when you have B plus tier or A minus tier in the middle of A or B. or any letter with a plus or minus next to it. This is good for when you have very long tier lists, when you have a lot of things in the tier. So I like this more than the more than one S tier. It prevents some tiers from getting oversaturated. I'm going to put this in B tier. Okay, as I am adding more stuff to the tier list, I am noticing that I am starting to fill up the top tiers, and that this might be a flaw with the tier list. C is the average, and you have three tiers underneath it, D, E, F, but only A, B above C tier. So S tier might actually have more use to kind of even out the top tiers. So I think I'm actually going to be adding a S tier. Okay, so now I'm going to put B tier and S tier and leave F tier in A tier. Now I was going to rank A tier rather high. However, with S tier, it no longer serves its purpose as being the highest tier perfection. And now it's only there because it has to be there as a tier linking S tier and B tier. So it might have to get downgraded to C tier, and S tier goes up to A tier. However, anything with more than one S still remains in E tier. And also, I think E tier is ranked a little bit too high, so I'll move it down to D tier. Now, tiers. My initial thought is not that good. You cry when you're sad. However, there's also crying because you're happy or because you're laughing too much. And you're thinking about how much it's actually worth existing. And it's an indicator to others that you're sad. I don't know, maybe. So that might actually boost its ranking to maybe beta. I'll put it in beta. The don't know it tier. This is for when someone's making a tier list and they don't know what one of the groups on the tier list is. This shows that they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know about the topic they're talking about, and also that they didn't even make their own tier list. They copied it off of someone else. So this is really unacceptable. I'm putting it in F tier. It's slightly better than C tier though, because at least you have the self-respect to say you don't have an opinion on it. Now finally, the tier dedicated to one person or one thing. This is when you have one tier, usually right at the top or right at the bottom, and it's I'll put some examples up when there's just one person or one thing in that tier, and the tier is named what that one thing is. I think it's very funny, adds to the tier list a lot. It doesn't get used too often. I like when it happens, so I'll put it in A tier. Um, Actually, now that I'm looking over it, A tier and E tier have similar roles. Kind of at the branching point between D tier to F tier and S tier to B tier. So it feels wrong keeping them in the same, in separate tiers. And I think I'll actually move A tier down to D tier. Given my disdain for C tier, I am very happy to be leaving it completely empty. Alright, that's it.